that area. So I got my bachelor's in communication.
Mhm.
And I got a job actually with a radio station chain up and down the East Coast. Now it's everybody has a website, but back then radio stations were just starting to get websites. And so I was working with them and bringing, like, for example, a car dealer or have a contest on the WXPT, website, come to you. So they were just starting that stuff. So it was really cool. Beasley Interactive was the name of the company. And it was very corporate, but it was, and I enjoyed it, but there was something in me that wanted to do more, I really liked the idea of writing, reading, and I went back to get my master's degree in English.
Wow, that's a tough master's degree. How many books did you read?
A lot of books. I don't know how many.
In 6 months,
Just
how many
one.
books would they make you read?
I loved it.
Undergraduate English is tough.
To me, and I still, so I had some great benefits, but I still had some benefits left. And so to me, I was getting paid to read and write stuff that I loved, and it was great.
So when you take a master's degree in English, I have never taken a literature. Well, I've taken undergraduate literature, but first year, just get away from it. I got away from it. Now, I like to read, don't get me wrong. I just don't like to write about it. Tell us, let's just go here. Who's your favorite author?
It's funny, on Facebook, they're doing a top 10 books, and some of them, of course, friends here at the college. Of course, I started here in the English department. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'm really into Thomas Wolfe, who's an American author. A Look Homeward Angel is definitely one of my favorite books. My master's thesis was on Jack Kerouac, looking at his writing. I'm very much an American lit guy.
Here, I thought you were going to say Stephen King, right?
No. Stephen King, he's cool. He's a Maine guy. Yeah, I like some of his stuff, but yeah, it's funny. I like a lot of the Southern writers, even though I'm from Maine.
I thought you were going to say Stephen King and Tom Clancy. Being a Marine.
Right.
So when you're taking a master's degree in English or any master's degree, what was your goal at the end of that? Did you already have a goal in mind, or did you just know you wanted to study English?
Yeah, the latter, I think. I really wanted to study English. I mean, certainly higher education looked appealing. All right, I could look at my professors and say, wow, these guys get paid to think, read, and write about stuff. Creative writing, I really enjoyed, and I thought, this is fantastic. This is something I'd like to do. And that was really, in my master's degree, my first foray into teaching. I was a teaching assistant. Mm-hmm. So they taught an equivalent to like an 1101 or an 1102. Mm-hmm. And you would essentially teach those courses, those intro courses to incoming freshmen. Mm-hmm. And really liked that, I started to enjoy that. So I started to just have an affinity towards, that side of the house, English.
So we'll get to teaching in one moment. I want to ask you about writing. Did you, when you were writing, did you write anything for like papers, like journalism?
Very active. We had a literary journal there at the college, and I published in that quite a bit, and did readings at the local bookstores and coffee shops. So I was very active in the writing community. Nice. There. Yeah. So
how would you advise a student who wants to go in and become a writer, say either a journalist or a novelist?
Yeah, I would say if that is your sense, go all the way for it, but know that it's don't go. I guess you'll run into you have to make a decision, right? That you need a job to pay for things. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of starving, writers out there, great writers. There are brilliant writers out there we'll never hear about, right? That just will never break through the. It's great now. I love the internet. This is a great time to be because you can access people. You can get people's attention with content.
Sure.
A lot easier than you did in the past. Mm-hmm. With blogs and everything. There's so many options. So there's a lot out there, but I think still right now content is big and writing is content. Mm-hmm. It comes in a lot of different formats, and it's not the traditional novel all the way. But I would say if that's what you want to do, that's amazing. Create. I think that's outstanding. But go, if you make that decision, do you want to play it safe or do you really want to go all the way? If you're young, go for it.
Sure. You have a lot less to lose when you're 20, when you're 40.
Right, absolutely.
So I think the novel The Martian, mm-hmm. I believe that was written by a biologist. I'd have to look. I don't know the exact information, but he published it for free on the internet.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
I didn't know that.
I'd have to look up the details, but I think I remember it correctly.
And that's the one the movie's based on and everything?
And it got picked up by one of the big publishers, and then obviously now he's got paid for it.
Right.
But I believe it was a free publication on the internet, or close to free. Maybe he charged $1 for it.
And I've heard of other stories like that where people have gained attention and then someone will come in and compensate them for it.
Yeah, because they want to put it nationwide and make a movie out of it, which was the book was. If you haven't read it, it's actually an amazing, very, very good book.
I've heard people talk about the book.
It's a good book, and the movie was great, but the book was much better.
Right.
Obviously, usually the books are much better.
Yeah.
Here you are, Jeff Nasse, teaching English. So the first time you walk into a classroom, how are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you both?
At first, you're excited when you're thinking about it. I liked the idea of teaching. When that door shuts behind you and you're looking at, now at that time, I'm still very close to the age of the students in my courses. You realize the weight of that responsibility. They're looking up at the class at you. You're in front of them to teach them. And obviously, I think like a lot of early teachers, I made a lot of mistakes. Sure. Here I was at a master's level studying literature and writing. And, excuse me, thought I shut this off. And this is 1101. There's a big difference,
Sure.
So, but I learned, and I came to love teaching. When you see people start to engage in ideas and learn the content and learn the stuff, that's unbelievable. And I still teach when I can now. I
was told before I started teaching, I was informed I had the job here at Broward, and before I came in, I talked to a gentleman who was actually in the same research group I was in. And he had gotten a job at a community college, and I spoke to him about, what should I try to avoid, and what should I do? And he gave me some advice, and he's like, you're going to love this job because every day you get the eureka moment. Yeah. And I said, really? He's like, because some student is going to say, I get it now, and you're going to go, eureka. And he's right. Every day, if you teach long enough, every day usually one student will. You can see it in their face, their eyes will light up, or they'll say something, they'll go, oh, then they got it. Right. You reached them, finally. It might take a little while, but you'll get to them.
They'll stay after class and ask you something and talk about something. Yeah,
some of the questions students ask are really good. Yeah. Wow, how did you come up with that? And they think about stuff, and you don't even know they're thinking about it.
It is tremendous. Love it.
It's amazing. Have you ever had that experience when you're in a classroom and the students are looking at you and you're trying to get something across, and you think, no one's even listening to me. And all of a sudden, 5 hands go up.
Right.
Like, wow, you were listening.
Right, you were paying attention.
I better watch what I say. Make sure I'm right. So here you go. You got your first class done. How'd they do? Did they all get A's?
I don't remember. As a TA, I don't remember. Maybe, perhaps. I'm not sure. I doubt it. I think.
You never know.
Yeah.
You were that good, right?
No, I don't think they all got A's, but I think they survived.
It must be challenging, though, to be a TA for an English course because, reading an essay takes a long time just to read one essay.
Right.
And especially if all the essays are on the same topic, that must get extraordinarily boring. How do you keep yourself motivated when you're grading an essay, say a 30-page essay on a novel? Mm-hmm. I mean, as a chemistry professor, it's, I can look at a problem and okay, the answer's right, and then I just kind of look at the other material and say, okay, they did the question right, so they got the answer right. It doesn't take me very long to do that. As an English professor, having to read student writing and correct their spelling, correct their grammar, and correct their content, how long would it take you to do that?
It's good. I worked in the writing center while I was there as a tutor in writing, and they gave us a lot of instructing. And it's funny, you used the word correct. But that was really a small part, and I think to the same thing. Yes, you do want to show them, if you will, the correct, but it's more about teaching. And every writer, I think the challenge of teaching writing comes in with different strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So, if you've got 20, and that's part of the challenge. If you have 25 students, all of them could have different strengths and weaknesses, right? Someone might have English as a second language. Mm-hmm. Someone might be more advanced, and you're trying to work with them on depth and content. So I think it's about it when you're grading a paper, you're trying to also provide instruction. You're trying to say, here's something I'd like you to think about. Writing is what you want to, in a writing class, is show them that this is a process. Too often, and still to this day, people think of writing as a product. Like, here's my paper, and that's it. It's done. It's a finished thing. And you try to show them, no, in many ways, it's never finished. You can go back to a paper. I mean, right? Someone like Hemingway would say, here's this great accomplished writer. He'd say, it's still not done, even after all this acclaim. So I think it's just telling students that it is a process. It continues. And there's different types of writing, right? There's the research paper, which is different than maybe an opinion, an editorial, or a creative piece. So what's your audience? What's your purpose? So I think there's a lot of things that go into the teaching of writing. And of course, an American literature class isn't much. That's about reading, right, and thinking about it, and also writing is much different than, let's say, an English composition class in 1101. So, which is much different than a professional technical writing class, right? So you have a lot of differences there.
So I'll tell you a story.
Okay, cool.
So just so you can kind of get the experience that I've had. When I was on a school trip, Broward school trip, and we were going scuba diving, and one of the divers that was there was on the dock, and he was talking to people, and I was kind of not paying attention to him. He wasn't talking to me, he was talking to people around him, and he asked this guy a question, this other student, and the student just looked at him and laughed and walked away, and I'm like, that's kind of rude. So this guy, the student, finally comes up to me. He's like, can you help me fill out this form? And it was the form for basically waiving your liability.
Okay.
What's your name? What's your address? What's your scuba diving number? All this stuff. And I said, sure, I'll help you fill it out. And he's like, okay. He gives it to me, and I said, well, wait a minute now. Look, fill out the top part, and we can work on the rest. He's like, you help me fill out the top part? I said, okay, sure. So I gave him a pen. I said, what do you need help with? He's like, what do I do here? I said, it says, write your name. I said, okay. So he scribbled his name down. I said, now what? I said, well, address. He goes, you can't read, can you?
Wow.
It's like, I can read. What's that say? I can read. I said, listen, I'm a faculty member. I'm not going to say nothing. Just you and me. Can you read? No. No word. I said, how old are you? I'm 22.
Wow.
So how'd you get through high school? Like, I just did.
Right.
I'm like, you're at Broward now. You can't read anything your professors give to you. He's like, I can't read anything. Like, you need to be able to read, and it's a skill you have to have.
Yeah, of course.
And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to be a police officer. I said, oh yeah, you have to know how to read as a police officer. Yeah. Absolutely. Sure. They all know how to read. He's like, no, we just arrest people. And I'm like, let me paint a scenario for you. You're on the stand with a guy who's murdered someone or something. Say, you arrested a murderer, and their defense lawyer says, read this back to the court. And you can't read it to the court. How could you possibly read him his rights? Like, well, that'll never happen. I'm like, that very easily could happen.
Yeah.
So I gave him a bunch of
basic variety of forms and paperwork.
Right.
But,
this garden variety stuff, like filling out a speeding ticket. You know, it's like, come on, man. And I tried to.
Wow, it's sad.
It's very sad. And I gave him all the like I asked my boss at the time, like, what do we have for students who can't read? Like, how do we get this guy out of where he is and get him to be able to read? And she gave me numerous resources to send this student. And I found him. I said, hey, call these numbers. It's all free. Get on board. Let's go. Learn how to read. And I think he just didn't want to know. And that's one of the saddest experiences I've ever had as a professor at Broward.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this story, not to make us both sad and to bring the show down, but how would you encourage a student who has challenges reading? Not even an English as a second language student. This was an American student.
Sure.
How would you encourage someone who's maybe having difficulty reading, or what can a student do who's having difficulty reading or just flat out can't read? How would you encourage them, and where would you send them? How can we help them?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of resources to that end. Like you said, there are programs out there, that adult education programs, a variety that will instruct. Online, they have reading instruction. If you just want to do something individual, private, and you don't want to, some people don't want to reach out for help and go to an adult education situation. You can go online. They have reading instruction online for people of all ages, people from different languages. That's someone who can't read at all. And of course, we have reading professors here who certainly are aware of those, and just developing a relationship with them they're highly capable in teaching reading. That's someone who really could not read. Then you have people that just don't read well,
right? Sure.
And at different levels. And to me, that's always about practice.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to learn Spanish, I need to be reading Spanish newspapers, watching, TV programs in Spanish. I need to be trying to immerse myself in the language.
Right.
And so I think the same thing for reading, challenges in that regard. Now, different people have different, deficits. So, but to me, like anything else, it's reaching out to people who can help me, and having the humility. Yeah, it's a little scary to admit, I'm sure, for a 22-year-old guy, and he had been through the system, which is a whole different, discussion in itself. But at some point, if you want to get better, you got to have the humility to say, hey, I don't know this stuff. I need help.